Millionaire discovers his secret 5-month-old son. Her reason leaves him in tears. Welcome to Alcott Stories. Hello, dear viewers. We're back with another heart-touching, emotional, and unforgettable love story. Tonight, we bring you Millionaire discovers his secret 5-month-old son. Her reason leaves him in tears. She loved him with all her heart, but he broke it without a second thought. She hid his son to protect him from a ruthless world. Now he's back, demanding answers, fighting for redemption and begging for a second chance. Will she let him in? Or will it be too little, too late? Stay with us till the end. I promise this story will take you on a roller coaster of deep emotions, love, betrayal, and redemption. Hit that play button and let the story begin. The grand ballroom of the Lexington Hotel gleamed under the soft glow of crystal chandeliers, the air thick with sophistication and wealth. The annual Knight Foundation Gala was a gathering of the city's elite, a place where fortunes were flaunted, alliances were forged, and only the most privileged could step foot. Amid the sea of designer gowns and expensive tuxedos, Selena Brooks stood gracefully, her beauty effortlessly stealing attention. Selena wasn't just another woman trying to impress the wealthy. She had earned her place here, a rising star in the fashion industry. She had been personally invited to showcase one of her exclusive designs for the event. At 24, she had already built a name for herself, with her bold, elegant designs that graced magazines and red carpets. But she never imagined that tonight, in this room full of power and prestige, her destiny would take an unexpected turn. The first glance that changed everything. As Selena admired the luxurious decor, her eyes landed on the most striking man in the room. Damian Knight, tall, powerful, and undeniably handsome, he exuded authority. Dressed in a perfectly tailored black tuxedo, his sharp jawline and piercing blue eyes made him look like he had stepped out of a billionaire romance novel. But beyond his godlike appearance, there was something dangerous about him, a reputation that followed him wherever he went. Damian Knight, the ruthless CEO of Knight Enterprises, a man known for his sharp mind in business and his cold heart in love. He didn't believe in emotions, only power. Women in his world were either trophies or distractions, nothing more. Yet when his gaze settled on Selena, something in him shifted. She was different. The deep brown of her skin glowed under the golden light, her figure sculpted like art in the elegant red dress she wore. Her hair cascaded in waves, and her full lips, painted a soft shade of wine, were enough to make any man lose his composure. But it wasn't just her beauty that captivated him. It was her confidence. She wasn't intimidated by the elite crowd around her. She didn't look at him with desperation like other women did. Instead, she held herself with quiet strength. Damian found himself intrigued, and Damian Knight never got intrigued. A conversation that sparked fire. Selena turned away, unaware of the effect she had on the most powerful man in the room. But before she could take another step, a deep, commanding voice stopped her. Enjoying the event, she turned and found herself staring directly into his piercing blue eyes. For a moment, she forgot how to breathe. Standing this close, his presence was even more overwhelming. Raw masculinity, power, authority. Yet, she wasn't one to be easily intimidated. "I suppose," she replied smoothly, tilting her head, "though I was expecting something more impressive." A slow, amused smirk curved Damian's lips. "Oh? And what would impress you?" Selena met his gaze with a teasing glint in her eyes. Something real. The answer caught him off guard. Most women he encountered only cared about luxury, status, or impressing him. But Selena, she wasn't fazed by any of it. And that intrigued him even more. A dance that set their souls on fire. The live orchestra began playing a slow, sensual melody, and Damian extended his hand. "Dance with me." Selena hesitated. She knew who he was. The infamous Damian Knight, the man women warned each other about, the one who broke hearts without a second thought. But there was something dangerously alluring about him, something that made her pulse race. With a deep breath, she placed her hand in his. The moment he pulled her into his arms, a shiver ran down her spine. His grip was firm, his body warm and solid. As they moved across the dance floor, their bodies aligned perfectly, dangerously. Selena had never felt so electrified before. Every step, every touch, every brush of his fingers against her waist sent heat rushing through her veins. "You don't seem the type to be easily impressed, Selena," Damian murmured against her ear. She smiled, feeling his breath on her skin. "Maybe I'm not." Their gazes locked, and for the first time in his life, Damian felt something unfamiliar. A pull, a desire not just for her body, but for the mystery she carried. And in that moment, he knew he wanted her. The night that changed everything. As the gala continued, Damian stayed by Selena's side, ignoring every other guest who sought his attention. They talked for hours about fashion, ambition, and the meaning of success. She challenged his views, called out his arrogance, and wasn't afraid to disagree with him. And instead of being annoyed, Damian found himself completely captivated. By the end of the night, neither of them wanted to say goodbye. "Come with me," Damian whispered, his fingers grazing her. Selena hesitated. She wasn't the kind of woman to fall for smooth words. But there was something in his eyes, a rare vulnerability beneath all that power. And against all logic, she found herself saying, yes. That night in the penthouse suite of the Lexington, their passion ignited like wildfire. Damian had never been with a woman like her, so fiery yet delicate, bold yet soft, and Selena had never experienced desire so intense, so consuming. As he worshipped her body, whispered sinful promises against her skin, and held her as if she was the only thing that mattered, she let herself believe this was real. That he wasn't just another heartless billionaire. That maybe, just maybe, he was the one. But love can be deceptive. Selena didn't know that this night, filled with passion and whispered dreams, was only the beginning of the greatest heartbreak of her life. She didn't know that the man who made her feel like the center of his world would soon shatter her heart into a million pieces. She had given him her body, her trust, her soul, and soon she would regret it all. The weeks following the gala were like a dream Selena never wanted to wake up from. Damian Knight, the ruthless billionaire who had every woman at his feet, had chosen her. And he didn't just choose her, he worshipped her. A love like a fairy tale. Damian was unlike any man Selena had ever known. He wasn't just about grand gestures, he was obsessed with her. He sent her roses every morning, their petals dusted with gold flakes, accompanied by handwritten notes that melted her heart. He flew her to Paris for breakfast, just because she had once mentioned she loved French pastry. He listened to her, remembered the smallest details about her life, and made her feel like she was the most important woman in the world. For the first time in her life, Selena felt seen. And as much as she had promised herself she wouldn't fall too fast, she couldn't help it. Extravagant escapes and midnight whispers. Their love wasn't just confined to expensive gifts, it was adventurous, spontaneous, and breathtaking. One evening, Damian whisked her away to a private island in the Caribbean, where they spent nights under the stars, wrapped in each other's arms. Another time he rented out an entire amusement park, just for the two of them, laughing like teenagers as they rode roller coasters at midnight. He flew her to Venice, where he rode their gondola himself, whispering promises of forever, as they drifted through moonlit canal. Selena was living a love story straight out of a movie, and she believed every single moment of it. His love was passionate, yet private. Yet amidst all the luxury and breathtaking moments, something gnawed at Selena's heart. Damian never introduced her to his world. Whenever she brought up meeting his friends, attending public events together, or even posting a simple picture online, he hesitated. "Why does it matter, baby?" he would say, kissing her temple. "I don't want the media to ruin what we have. Our love is sacred." Private. At first, Selena accepted it. After all, the press could be brutal. The world of the elite wasn't kind to outsiders, and maybe Damian was just protecting what they had. But as the months passed, his secrecy began to sting. The silent fears Selena ignored. She started noticing things. Damian was always in control, deciding when and where they would meet. He never brought her to his home. They always stayed in private resorts, penthouses, or hidden getaway locations. He made sure they were never seen together in public. Whenever she questioned him, he would shower her with affection, distract her with another grand romantic gesture. "You're overthinking, my love," he murmured against her lips, his hands tracing fire across her skin. "I adore you. Isn't that enough?" And in those moments, as he held her close, whispering sweet nothings into her ear, all her doubts melted away. She wanted to trust him. She wanted to believe that love would conquer all. But deep down, a voice in her heart whispered, "What if you're just a secret he's too ashamed to claim?" Her blind trust in a man she didn't truly know. One evening, after another passionate night in his penthouse, Selena lay in his arms, tracing circles on his bare chest. "Damian," she whispered, hesitating. "Do you love me?" His fingers stilled in her hair. For a second, she thought she had ruined the moment. But then he lifted her chin, making her look into his piercing blue eyes. "Selena," he said softly, "you're the only woman who's ever mattered to me." She searched his face, wanting more, needing more. "Then why are we still a secret?" Her voice was barely above a whisper. His jaw tightened. A shadow passed over his face before he sighed and cupped her cheek. "My world is complicated, baby." His thumb brushed her lips. "There are people who wouldn't understand. I need time to handle things before I can give you everything you deserve." Selena's heart clenched, but she nodded. She wanted to believe him. And that night, as he made love to her, whispering promises of forever, she let herself fall even deeper. She didn't know that she was falling into a beautifully crafted illusion. And when the truth finally shattered it, it would break her completely. Selena had spent months convincing herself that Damian truly loved her, that despite his secrecy, despite his reluctance to introduce her to his world, their love was real. But one headline destroyed everything. A morning that started with love. Selena woke up in Damian's penthouse, wrapped in silk sheets that still carried his scent. Sunlight filtered through the massive windows, casting a golden glow over the room. She stretched, a lazy smile on her lips, her body still humming from the passionate night before. Damian had been different last night, softer, almost vulnerable. He had kissed her slowly, whispering between each kiss, "You're mine, Selena, only mine." She had held onto those words like a promise. As she slipped out of bed, she reached for her phone. Her heart fluttered with excitement. Maybe today would be the day Damian finally made their love public. But instead, the moment her screen lit up, her world collapsed. A headline that stabbed like a knife. The first notification was from a gossip site. "Breaking billionaire Damian Knight announces engagement to Victoria Hale." Selena's breath caught in her throat. Her fingers trembled as she clicked the article. And there it was, a photo of Damian standing beside Victoria Hale, his wealthy, white ex-fiancée. They were smiling at a charity event, her diamond ring glittering under the flashing cameras. The caption below it made her stomach twist. "Damian Knight and Victoria Hale, the power couple of the elite world, are officially engaged once more. Their wedding is set to be the event of the year." Selena couldn't breathe. Her body went numb as her mind tried to make sense of the betrayal. This has to be a mistake. There's no way Damian would do this to me. Not after everything. A desperate part of her wanted to believe there was an explanation. But deep down she already knew the truth. A confrontation that ended it all. Heart racing, she threw on her clothes and stormed into Damian's office. The door slammed open, making his assistant jump. "Miss Selena, you can't just... Where is he?" she demanded, her voice trembling. Before the assistant could stop her, she pushed past and barged into his office. Damian sat behind his massive desk, a whiskey glass in his hand. He looked up, his sharp blue eyes meeting hers, calm, unreadable, and completely indifferent. It was like looking at a stranger. Selena threw her phone onto his desk. "Explain this." He glanced at the screen. took a slow sip of his drink, and leaned back in his chair, unbothered. "It's exactly what it looks like," he said, his voice cold. "I'm engaged to Victoria." The casualness of his words stabbed her. "But last night," her voice cracked. "You told me I was yours. You told me." Damian sighed, setting down his glass. "Selena, you knew what this was." His tone was detached, as if he was explaining a business deal. "We had fun, but you and I? It was never meant to last." The room spun. "Never meant to last," she echoed, barely able to form the words. "You made me believe you loved me." "I never said that," Damian replied smoothly, his gaze steady. "You assumed." Tears blurred her vision. This couldn't be happening. Not after everything they had shared. Not after all those whispered promises. "So what was I to you?" she whispered. "Just a secret, a distraction." For the first time, something flickered in Damian's eyes. Guilt, regret, but it was gone as fast as it appeared. "It was fun while it lasted," he said simply. "But Victoria is the woman I'm meant to marry. It's a business decision. A business decision." Selena felt like she had been punched in the gut, her heart shattered beyond repair. She stood there, staring at the man she had loved, wondering how she had ever believed he had a heart. He had kissed her, touched her, held her like she was his world, only to turn around and choose a woman who fit his image. Selena laughed bitterly, though tears streamed down her face. "You are a coward, Damian Knight." He didn't respond. She took a shaky breath, her voice trembling but strong. "You may have power, money, and status, but you will never know what real love is. And one day, you're going to regret this." Still, he said nothing. His silence was the final blow. With her heart shattered, Selena turned and walked away, disappearing from his life forever. Or so she thought, because what she didn't know was that she was carrying a piece of him inside her. A secret that would change everything. Selena never thought one night could change her life forever. After walking out of Damian's office, shattered and humiliated, she had sworn never to look back. She was done with him, done with his cold heart, his lies, his ruthless world. But fate had one final twist in store for her, a life-changing discovery. Weeks passed. Selena threw herself into work, determined to forget him, but something was wrong. The nausea started first. At first, she thought it was just stress, but then came the dizziness, the exhaustion, the strange cravings, things she had never experienced before. Then, one morning, as she stood in front of her mirror, she noticed it. A small but undeniable change in her body. Her heart pounded as she stared at her reflection, a terrifying realization creeping into her mind. No, it couldn't be. With shaking hands, she rushed to the nearest pharmacy, buying a pregnancy test. Minutes later, as she held the positive result in her hands, tears poured down her face. She was pregnant, with Damian's baby, the decision that defined her future. For hours, Selena sat in her apartment, staring at the test. A part of her wanted to call Damian, tell him he was going to be a father. But then she remembered, Victoria is the woman I'm meant to marry. It's a business decision. His words still burned in her mind. Damian didn't love her. He had never planned to build a future with her. And if she told him about the baby, what would he do? He would see it as an inconvenience, a problem to be solved. She could already imagine him offering her money to take care of it. Or worse, demanding custody, raising the child in his cold, emotionless world, just as he had been raised. Selena wouldn't let that happen. This baby wasn't just Damian's child, it was hers, a symbol of the love she had once believed in. She had already lost her heart to Damian. She wouldn't lose her child to him too. With a deep breath, she made a decision. She had to disappear, leaving everything behind. That night, Selena packed a suitcase. She didn't allow herself to cry, didn't allow herself to second guess. She withdrew all her savings and booked a one-way ticket out of the city. Her heart ached as she looked around her apartment, the place where she had once dreamed of a future with Damian. But that dream was dead. Now she had a new future to build. one where her child would be safe. As the sun rose, she stepped onto a bus, her hand resting over her stomach. Her unborn son's tiny heartbeat was the only thing that mattered now, and she would protect him, no matter what it took. Selena had always been strong, but nothing could have prepared her for motherhood, especially not as a single mother. When she left New York, she had no concrete plan, only the determination to protect her child from Damian's ruthless world. She had arrived in Atlanta with nothing but a suitcase, a handful of savings, and the life growing inside her. The months that followed tested her in ways she never imagined. A lonely delivery. Selena had hoped that childbirth would be beautiful, magical, something she would cherish forever. Instead, she found herself in a dimly lit hospital room, gripping the sheets in pain, utterly alone. There was no one by her side to hold her hand. No excited father pacing the halls, just the nurses, the beeping monitors, and the agony of bringing a life into the world. And then, after hours of excruciating labor, she heard it, her baby's first cry. Tears streamed down her face as the nurse placed the tiny bundle in her arms. He was perfect. Soft brown skin, dark curls, and Damian's piercing blue eyes. The resemblance nearly shattered her, but when he blinked up at her, his little fingers wrapping around hers, she felt something even stronger than heartbreak. Love. Fierce, protective, unconditional love. She kissed his tiny forehead and whispered, "Noah, your name is Noah." He was her whole world now, surviving for her son. Raising a baby alone was harder than Selena ever imagined. The sleepless nights, the endless crying, the fear of not being enough. There were days when she felt completely drained, collapsing onto her tiny mattress after a double shift, only to be woken up an hour later by Noah's cries. Money was tight. She had used up her savings in the first few months after Noah's birth, and without a college degree or experience in anything outside fashion design, finding work was nearly impossible. Still, she refused to give up. She took on whatever job she could, waitressing, cleaning offices at night, even stitching clothes for a small boutique. She never let pride stop her, because every cent she earned went to Noah's food, diapers, and doctor visits. She often went to bed hungry, but Noah always had enough. She would do anything for him. A father's regret. Meanwhile, back in New York, Damian Knight sat in his penthouse, staring at the city skyline, a glass of whiskey untouched in his hand. It had been months since Selena left, months since he made the biggest mistake of his life. He had told himself it was just another relationship, that she would move on, just like all the others. But he couldn't stop thinking about her. The way she had looked at him that night, heartbroken, betrayed. He had broken something beautiful, something real. And the worst part, Victoria Hale, the woman he had betrayed Selena for, meant nothing to him. Their engagement had been a strategic business move, one that lasted less than 3 months before they called it off. Selena had given him love, a love money couldn't buy, and he had thrown it away. And now he had nothing left but regret. But what he didn't know, what he never imagined, was that he had also lost something far greater than love. Somewhere out there, his son was growing up without him. Hope in the darkness. Selena never told herself it would be easy, but every time she felt like breaking, she looked at Noah's tiny face and reminded herself why she had chosen this path. Her son deserved love, safety, and happiness. She refused to let Damian's world take that away from him. Even if it meant struggling, even if it meant sacrificing her dreams, she would fight for Noah. But fate had its own plans, because no secret stays hidden forever. And soon Damian Knight would discover the truth. 5 months had passed. 5 months since Selena had brought Noah into the world. 5 months of exhaustion, of struggle, of sacrificing her own needs, just to make sure her baby had everything he needed. And 5 months since she had last thought about Damian Knight. At least that's what she told herself. But deep down, he was always there, in Noah's piercing blue eyes, in the sharp curve of his jawline, in the way he sometimes furrowed his tiny brows, as if contemplating the world. Noah was a part of Damian, and that terrified her. A simple day turns into a nightmare. The day started like any other. Selena had the weekend off, and after weeks of working non-stop, she finally had time to do something special for Noah. She took him to the mall, hoping to buy him a few new outfits from the clearance section of a children's store. Dressed in a simple white sundress, with Noah cradled in her arms, she moved through the crowd, humming softly to him. She had no idea that fate was about to throw her back into the past she had fought so hard to escape, because at that very moment, Damian Knight was in the same mall. A glimpse that stopped time. Damian had been moving through the luxury wing of the mall, his mind clouded with business deals and endless meetings, when something caught his eye. Or rather, someone. A woman. Her walk, her posture, the curve of her face, all too familiar. His heart slammed against his chest. It couldn't be, could it? Then she turned slightly, shifting the baby in her arms, and that's when he saw them. The baby's eyes, his eyes, a shiver ran down his spine. It was like looking at a miniature version of himself. The sharp, icy blue gaze, the same intensity that had always made people uncomfortable. There was no denying it. His pulse roared in his ears. Selena had a child, and something inside him screamed, that child was his. A confrontation years in the making. Selena had just stepped out of the store, clutching a small bag of baby clothes, when she felt it, a presence. A shadow looming too close. A scent she had once loved, rich cologne, dark and intoxicating. Her body froze. She didn't have to turn around to know who it was, but when she did, her breath caught in her throat. Damian. He stood there, towering as always, dressed in a crisp suit that screamed power. His piercing blue eyes, locked onto hers, burning with something dangerous. For a second, neither of them spoke. Then in a low, commanding voice, he said, "Whose baby is that?" Selena's blood turned to ice. She tightened her grip around Noah, her heart hammering against her ribs. Damian took a slow step forward, his gaze never leaving the child in her arms. "I asked you a question, Selena," he said, his voice dangerously calm. "Whose baby is that?" She forced herself to breathe, forced herself to be strong. "It doesn't concern you." Damian's jaw tightened. His eyes flicked between her and the baby, putting the pieces together. Then something shifted in his expression. Realization, hurt, betrayal. "You had my child," he whispered, the words barely audible. "And you hid him from me." Selena felt her throat tighten, but she refused to let emotion take over. She squared her shoulders, keeping her voice cold. "You lost the right to know anything about me when you chose your business deal over our love." Damian flinched. For the first time in his life, he had no words, because deep down, he knew she was right. But that didn't mean he was going to let this go. Not now, not when he had a son. Selena's desperate escape. The moment she saw the determination in Damian's eyes, she knew he wasn't going to walk away. Panic surged through her. No, she couldn't let him do this. She couldn't let him back into her life, into Noah's life. With her heart pounding, she turned sharply and began walking away. "Selena," Damian's voice was sharp, commanding, but she didn't stop. She pushed through the crowd, her grip on Noah tightening. But Damian was faster. His strong fingers wrapped around her wrist, stopping her in her tracks. She gasped, turning to glare at him. "Let me go," she hissed. Damian leaned in slightly, his voice low and dangerous. "I will, but not until you tell me the truth." For a moment, their eyes locked, a silent war of emotions and unspoken pain. Then Noah whimpered. The tiny sound broke through the tension like a blade. Damian's gaze flickered to the baby, softening for the first time. Selena saw it. The hesitation, the confusion, the unexpected vulnerability in his usually cold eyes. It was too much. Before he could say another word, she ripped her wrist from his grip and ran. She disappeared into the crowd, leaving Damian standing there, his fists clenched. His world had just changed in an instant, and he wasn't going to let her escape again. Not when he had a son. Selena had spent the past 5 months protecting her son from Damian's world, but in a matter of minutes, everything she had fought for was at risk. Damian knew. He had seen Noah. He had seen the undeniable resemblance. And if she knew anything about Damian Knight, it was that he never walked away from something that belonged to him. A man who refused to lose. Damian wasn't a man who waited for answers. He took the moment Selena vanished into the crowd, he made a call. "Find out where she lives," he ordered his assistant. "I want every detail about her life." His heart still thundered in his chest. A son. He had a son. And Selena, she had kept him a secret. Damian had never felt betrayed in his life, until now, and he would get the truth, whether Selena wanted him to or not. Selena's desperate defense. Back at her small apartment, Selena paced the floor, her mind racing. Damian wouldn't stop. She knew that. She had to do something. She clutched Noah close, whispering, "I won't let him take you, I swear." But before she could think of a plan, a knock sounded at the door. Her heart stopped. She knew it was him. Taking a deep breath, she opened the door just enough to glare up at the man who had haunted her past. Damian stood there, towering and unraidable, but his eyes burned with determination. "Selena," he said, his voice dangerously calm. "We need to talk." She held the door tightly. "There's nothing to talk about." His jaw tightened. "I think we both know that's not true." She shook her head. "You don't get to come here demanding things. You made your choice when you chose Victoria Hale over me." A flash of something dark crossed Damian's face. Guilt, regret, but it was gone in an instant. "This isn't about the past," he said. "It's about him." His gaze flicked toward Noah, who lay peacefully in his crib. Selena swallowed hard. "He's none of your concern." Damian took a slow, deliberate step forward. "He is my son, and I'm not leaving until I know the truth." The pressure begins. When Selena refused to speak to him, Damian turned ruthless. The next day, she lost her job. Her boss, apologetic but firm, told her the boutique had been forced to let her go. Damian's influence was everywhere. Furious, she stormed into his office, a place she had sworn never to step foot in again. "You think this will make me talk?" she spat, slamming her hands on his desk. Damian leaned back in his chair, watching her with calm intensity. "No, Selena, I think you hiding my son from me was a mistake, and I don't let mistakes slide." Her hands curled into fists. "You don't get to bully your way into Noah's life." Damian stood, his presence towering over her. "Watch me." Her stomach twisted. He wouldn't stop. He would push and push until she had no choice but to give in. And then he said the words that made her blood run cold. "If you won't tell me the truth willingly, we'll settle this with a DNA test." Her breath caught. "No," she whispered. Damian tilted his head. "No? Are you refusing? Because that would only prove—" "Fine," she snapped. "Do your damn test. But after that, stay away from us." A small smirk played on his lips. "Let's see if you still feel that way when the results come in." The truth is uncovered. The test results arrived 3 days later. Damian sat in his office, the envelope in his hands. He didn't need to open it, he already knew. But he did anyway. His breath slowed as his eyes scanned the paper. 99.9% match. Noah was his son. And suddenly, the world as he knew it shifted. For the first time in years, Damian Knight felt something other than power and control. He felt fear. Fear that he had lost something he could never get back. Selena's last warning. When Damian arrived at Selena's apartment, she was already waiting. She could see it in his face. He knew the truth now. "Congratulations," she said bitterly. "You got what you wanted." Damian's voice was low. "This isn't about winning, Selena." She let out a harsh laugh. "Isn't it? That's all you ever cared about. Winning, owning, controlling. But Noah isn't one of your business deals, Damian. He's a child, my child." His fists clenched. "He's mine too." Her eyes burned with unshed tears. "You don't deserve him." That hit him harder than anything else. "I'm not the monster you think I am, Selena," he said quietly. And I'm not going anywhere. I have a son, and I will be in his life, whether you like it or not." Selena's heart pounded. She had spent months protecting Noah, but how do you protect a child from his own father? One thing was clear: this war was just beginning. The truth was undeniable now. Damian had a son who had lived 5 months without him, a son he should have known about, held in his arms, and protected. And yet, because of his own arrogance, his coldness, and the choices he had made, he had lost those precious months. Damian Knight, the ruthless, feared millionaire, felt something he had never felt before: regret, a man struggling with his own reflection. Damian sat in his penthouse office, the city skyline stretching before him. Yet he saw nothing. His mind was trapped in the past. Selena's face, her eyes filled with betrayal, flashed through his thoughts. She had loved him, truly, deeply, without hesitation, and he had thrown it away. For what? For wealth, power, to maintain his carefully crafted image. His grip tightened around the whiskey glass in his hand. He had been a fool, and now, the woman he had once called his own hated him. Worse, she had feared him enough to hide his own flesh and blood from him. How much had he truly broken her? Damian couldn't breathe at the thought. He had to see her. The confrontation. Selena wasn't surprised when she heard a knock at the door. She had been waiting for him. With a steadying breath, she opened it to see Damian standing there, his usual arrogance missing, replaced with something raw. "Selena," he said, his voice rough. She crossed her arms. "What do you want, Damian?" His jaw clenched. "I want the truth." She scoffed. "You got the truth when you opened that DNA test." "Not just that," he said, stepping inside. "I want to know everything. Why you left. Why you kept him from me. Why you—" He swallowed hard. "Why you looked at me like I was your worst nightmare today." Selena laughed bitterly. "You really don't know?" Damian didn't answer, so she gave him the truth he had been blind to. The pain of her words. "You shattered me, Damian." Selena whispered. He stiffened. "I loved you. Do you know that?" she continued, her voice trembling. "I gave you my heart, my trust, everything. And what did you do with it? You broke it." Damian felt his chest tighten. She took a shaky breath. "I thought you were going to introduce me as the woman you love. I thought we were building something real." She looked at him then, her eyes filled with years of pain. "And then I woke up one morning to see your engagement with Victoria Hale, all over the news." Damian felt his stomach twist. "Do you have any idea what that did to me?" she continued, her voice shaking. "I wasn't just heartbroken. I was humiliated." "Selena." "No," she cut him off. "You don't get to speak. Not yet." He closed his mouth, swallowing hard. Her gaze didn't waver. "You didn't even have the decency to tell me. You let me find out with the rest of the world, like I was nothing." Damian's fingers curled into fists. He had been ruthless in business, but he had never intended to be this cruel to her. But intention didn't matter. The damage had been done. "I tried to move on," Selena admitted. "Tried to erase you from my life. And then I found out I was pregnant." Damian exhaled sharply. She nodded. "Do you know what I felt when I saw that test result?" Her voice cracked. "Not happiness, not excitement. I was terrified." His gut twisted painfully. "I knew you would never accept a child that didn't fit into your perfect world," she whispered. "You proved that when you threw me away for a woman that fit your lifestyle better." His throat was tight, his chest heavy. "Selena, I had to protect him," she interrupted. "I had to protect Noah from you, from the man you used to be, from the man who would have chosen status and reputation over his own child." And that's when Damian felt it, the breaking of something deep inside him. A weight settled in his chest, crushing him. She had been right to hide Noah from him, because the man he had been back then, that man wouldn't have been a father, and he knew it. A man brought to his knees. Damian let out a slow, uneven breath. He had never apologized to anyone in his life, not his business rivals, not his family, but for the first time ever, he felt truly sorry. And when he spoke, his voice was raw. "I messed up. Selena blinked, clearly surprised. "I was a selfish bastard," he admitted. "I let my pride, my fear, destroy something I should have fought for." Selena folded her arms, trying to appear indifferent, but he saw the flicker of emotion in her eyes. "But I need you to know something," Damian said, stepping closer. "If I had known about Noah, I would have never let you go." She shook her head. "That's the problem, Damian. You always think you can just take what you want." He winced. "I know I can't fix the past, but I can prove to you that I'm not that man anymore." She gave him a wary look. "And how exactly do you plan to do that?" Damian took a deep breath. "By being the father Noah deserves." Selena's eyes softened for the briefest moment, but then she shook her head. "You don't just get to decide that now," she said. "I won't let you hurt him the way you hurt me." And with those final words, she shut the door in his face. The man left outside. Damian stood frozen in the hallway. For the first time in his life, he had no power, no strategy, no negotiation tactic, just loss. The woman he had loved, the woman he had pushed away, had finally spoken her truth. And he realized something devastating. She had every reason to hate him, but the question was it too late to fix what he had broken? As he turned away, he made a vow. He had already lost Selena once. He wasn't going to lose his son, and if there was even a chance to earn back Selena's trust, he would fight for it. Damian Knight had always been a man who got what he wanted. He had built his empire with ruthless precision, making people bend to his will. But for the first time in his life, power and wealth meant nothing, because the only two people who mattered, his son and the woman he had lost, wanted nothing to do with him. And that was a pain Damian never thought he would feel. But he wasn't giving up. Not this time. A man on a mission. Damian stood outside Selena's apartment, his hands clenched at his sides. He had knocked twice already, but there was no response. He knew she was home, and he knew she was ignoring him. He exhaled sharply. If she wanted him to work for this, then so be it. Reaching into the bag beside him, he pulled out a small blue box and set it on the doormat. Inside was a tiny silver bracelet, engraved with one word: Noah. A gift for his son, a promise that he wasn't going anywhere. And then, without another word, he walked away. Selena's walls refused to break. Selena waited until she was sure Damian was gone before opening the door. Her eyes immediately fell on the small box. She hesitated before picking it up, her fingers trembling. Inside, she found the delicate bracelet, and for a moment, her heart softened. But then the memories came rushing back. The heartbreak, the betrayal, the moment she saw his engagement plastered across every news outlet. Selena's grip tightened. No, she wouldn't fall for his games again. She had to protect herself. She had to protect Noah, and that meant keeping Damian at a distance. The first encounter with Noah, Damian tried again the next day, and the next. Selena refused to see him. But fate had other plans. One afternoon, as Selena walked through the park with Noah, she felt a presence behind her. She turned, and there he was. Damian stood a few feet away, his piercing blue eyes locked on the tiny boy in her arms. For a moment, everything froze. Noah, oblivious to the tension, let out a happy gurgle, and then, to Selena's horror, he reached out toward Damian. Damian's breath hitched. He took a hesitant step forward. "May I?" Selena hesitated. Every instinct screamed no. But Noah wanted his father, and for all the pain Damian had caused, he was still her son's blood. Reluctantly, she nodded. Damian carefully cradled Noah in his arms. The moment he held his son for the first time, something inside him shifted. He had always been a man who controlled emotions, but now he was undone. Noah's tiny fingers curled around his shirt, his dark eyes filled with innocence. For the first time in his life, Damian Knight felt truly vulnerable. He pressed a soft kiss to his son's forehead. "I promise I'll never leave you again." Selena's fear of hope. Selena watched the scene unfold, her heart in turmoil. This was dangerous. This was exactly how she had fallen for Damian the first time, believing in the man she thought he could be. She had spent months rebuilding her walls, and yet, with just one moment, they were already starting to crack. Damian looked up, meeting her gaze. "Give me a chance, Selena." She swallowed hard. "You don't deserve one." His jaw clenched, but he nodded. "Then I'll earn it." Damian refuses to give up. For the next few weeks, Damian did exactly that. He showed up at the park every afternoon. He sent gifts, not extravagant ones, but thoughtful ones. Children's books, small toys. One day, Selena found a bag of groceries on her doorstep, filled with Noah's favorite snacks. There was no note, but she knew who had left them, and it terrified her, because it meant Damian wasn't just trying to prove himself to Noah. He was trying to prove himself to her, and she wasn't sure her heart could survive that. A slip in the armor. One evening, as Damian played with Noah on the park bench, Selena found herself watching them. The way Damian carefully wiped Noah's hands after he played in the dirt, the way he smiled, a real, genuine smile she hadn't seen in years. She hated that it made her chest ache. She hated that it made her remember the Damian she had fallen for. And then, Noah let out a loud giggle, one that sent Damian into laughter too. It was the first time she had ever heard them laugh together, and in that moment, something inside her broke. She turned away quickly, pressing a hand to her chest. This wasn't supposed to happen. She wasn't supposed to feel hope, the final plea. That night, Damian showed up at her door again. This time she didn't ignore him. She stepped outside, arms crossed. "What do you want, Damian?" He exhaled slowly. "I want to be part of my son's life." Her throat tightened. "And what about me?" His blue eyes darkened. "I want to be part of your life too." Selena sucked in a breath. Damian stepped closer. "I know I hurt you, and I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you if you let me." She searched his face, looking for any sign of the man who had betrayed her. But all she saw was the man who was trying to change, and that scared her more than anything. Because if she let him back in and he broke her again, she wouldn't survive it. So she whispered the only words she could manage. "I don't know if I can trust you, Damian." His jaw tensed, but he nodded. "Then I'll keep fighting for you until you do." And as he walked away, Selena realized something terrifying. A part of her wanted him to fight for her. Selena felt like the ground had been ripped from beneath her. Damian's words echoed in her head, cold and unwavering. "If you won't let me be a part of Noah's life, I'll make sure the courts do." Her heart pounded as she stared at him, disbelief flooding her veins. The man who had once abandoned her without a second thought, the man who had made her feel like she was nothing, was now threatening to take away the only thing that had ever mattered. Her son, a mother's fury. Selena clenched her fists, her voice trembling with rage. "You think you can just walk back into our lives and make demands," she spat. "You weren't there when I was struggling. You weren't there when I had to choose between paying rent or buying formula for Noah." Damian's jaw tightened, but he didn't back down. "I didn't know, Selena. You never told me, because you made it clear I meant nothing to you." Her voice cracked, the pain of the past slicing through her like a blade. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. She wouldn't let him see her cry. Not again. Damian ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in his eyes. "I made mistakes. I regret them every damn day. But Noah is my son too, and I have a right to be in his life." Selena shook her head, her chest tightening. "You don't get to decide that now, Damian." "You're wrong," he said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "The courts will. Legal war begins." Selena barely made it through the next few days. The moment she got the custody petition, her hands trembled as she read it. Damian was demanding joint custody. Her stomach twisted in fear. If he won, if she lost, she couldn't even think about it. Damian had money, power and influence. He could hire the best lawyers, and her. She had a mother's love, but would that be a night of tears and fear? That night, after putting Noah to sleep, Selena curled up on her couch, staring at the papers in her hands. She had fought so hard to protect her son. to keep him from the ruthless world Damian belonged to. But now she felt like she was losing everything. A knock at the door startled her. She hesitated before opening it, and there he was, Damian. His face was unreadable, but his eyes softened when he saw her. "We need to talk," he said quietly. Selena swallowed hard. "There's nothing to talk about," he exhaled, stepping closer. "I don't want to fight you, Selena, but I won't give up on my son." Her throat tightened. "And what happens when you get tired of playing father, Damian? What happens when Noah asks where his daddy is and I have to explain that you left?" Pain flickered across his face. "I won't leave." She let out a bitter laugh. "That's what you said before." Silence stretched between them. Finally, Damian spoke, his voice hoarse. "I made the biggest mistake of my life walking away from you, Selena. I lost you." "I won't lose Noah, too." She wanted to believe him, but her heart wasn't ready to trust him again. So she whispered, "Then I guess we'll see each other in court." And she shut the door. Damian's desperation. Damian stood outside her apartment, his chest aching. This wasn't how he wanted things to go, but he was running out of options. He had promised to fight for his son, and if this was what it took to prove he was serious, then so be. The truth had been hiding in plain sight, and now it exploded like a bomb, shaking Damian's entire world. Victoria Hale had lied. The woman he once thought was his perfect match, his equal in wealth and status, had trapped him in a web of deceit, and the worst part, he had lost Selena because of it. A shocking revelation. Damian's hands curled into fists as he glared at Victoria across her luxurious penthouse. "Say it again," he growled, his voice low and dangerous. Victoria, usually poised and confident, shrunk under his gaze. I wasn't actually pregnant," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Rage boiled in Damian's chest. "You lied to me," he hissed. "I didn't have a choice," she snapped, suddenly defensive. "You were slipping away, Damian. I could see it every time you looked at her. Selena, that woman had your heart, and I had to stop it." His blood ran cold. Selena, he had sacrificed her, pushed her away, broken her heart, all because of a lie. A lie from a woman who had never really loved him. Only his name, his money, his power. "You disgust me," he spat. "You stole my chance at happiness." Victoria scoffed, regaining her usual arrogance. "Oh, please, you're acting like some innocent victim. You chose me, Damian. You chose wealth, status, and power over love. Don't blame me for your own damn mistakes." Her words sliced deep, because she wasn't wrong. Damian had chosen to be ruthless, to prioritize his empire over his heart, and in doing so, he had destroyed the only real love he had ever known. The final goodbye. He took a step back, his expression ice-cold. "It's over, Victoria," he said. She laughed bitterly. "You think you can just walk away from me? Watch me," he growled, storming toward the door. But just as he reached for the handle, her voice stopped him. "You think Selena will take you back?" she sneered. "She'll never forgive you, Damian. You destroyed her." Her words hit him harder than he expected, because deep down, he feared she was right. But for the first time in his life, Damian Knight wasn't going to let fear stop him. A man on a mission. Damian wasted no time. He cut all ties with Victoria, ensuring her name would never be linked to his again. Then, he did something he never thought he'd do. He called his legal team and told them to stop the custody battle. Selena didn't need a fight. She needed to know the truth. She needed to know that he was ready to be the man she once believed in, the man she deserved. And more than anything, she needed to know that he still loved her. Selena's reaction. When Selena opened her door that night, the last person she expected to see was Damian Knight, standing in the rain, looking more broken than she had ever seen him. Her heart clenched. "Damian," she breathed. He took a deep breath. "I was wrong, Selena." She blinked, confused. "About what?" "Everything." And then, with raw honesty in his eyes, Damian told her the truth. about Victoria, about the lies, about how he had ruined the best thing in his life because of fear, greed, and manipulation. Selena listened, her expression unreadable. When he finished, she stared at him for what felt like an eternity. And then she whispered, "It doesn't change what you did." Damian's heart sank. "But it changes what I do now," he said softly. Selena swallowed hard. "You stopped the custody battle," she murmured, realization dawning on her. "I don't want to fight you, Selena," he admitted. "I just want to prove to you that I can be better, that I will be better." She wanted to believe him. But could she? Could she really let herself trust him again? As she glanced toward the nursery, where their son Noah slept peacefully, a war raged inside her. Could she risk her heart again? Or was Damian Knight simply too broken to fix? Damian Knight had spent his life winning business deals, winning power struggles, winning at being ruthless. But for the first time, winning wasn't enough. Because the one thing he wanted most, Selena and Noah, was something he couldn't just buy, negotiate, or claim. He had to earn it, and he was willing to do whatever it took. A grand gesture, but not for show. Damian was a man of action. He knew words weren't enough to fix what he had done. So, he did something no one expected. He donated millions to organizations that supported single mothers, women who had been abandoned, and children without fathers. Not for headlines, not for image, but because he finally understood what Selena had gone through, what she had sacrificed to protect their son. And the moment Selena saw his name plastered across the news, announcing his $10 million donation to struggling single mothers, she froze, her breath hitched. This wasn't Damian. This wasn't the ruthless billionaire she once knew. So why was he doing this? The first step toward trust. Selena wasn't ready to forgive Damian, but she couldn't ignore the way Noah's face lit up every time Damian was around. He had started visiting, not because of legal pressure, but because he genuinely wanted to be there. He held Noah, fed him, put him to sleep. And when Noah cried, Damian didn't call a nanny. He picked him up and whispered, "Daddy's here." Selena watched, heart aching. She had spent 5 months believing she was alone in this. But now, here he was, present, vulnerable, trying. A public declaration of love. Damian was done hiding. For months he had kept Selena a secret, but not anymore. At a high-profile charity gala, surrounded by New York's elite, he did the unthinkable. He walked onto the stage, took the microphone, and looked straight into the crowd. "I want to dedicate this night to someone who changed my life, someone I was too blind to see. Her name is Selena Carter. She is the mother of my son. And the woman I love." Gasps filled the room. Cameras flashed. Headlines exploded online. But Selena, she stood frozen at the back of the room, heart pounding. Damian continued, "I failed her. I let my fear control me. But not anymore. I love you, Selena, and I will spend the rest of my life proving it." The crowd erupted in murmurs. This was scandalous, unexpected, raw. But Damian didn't care, because the only thing that mattered was the woman staring at him with wide, tear-filled eyes. Selena's resistance begins to crumble. Selena didn't rush into his arms. She didn't forgive him that night. But something inside her shifted. For the first time, she saw a man who wasn't just saying sorry, he was proving it. Day by day, Damian kept showing up, not with expensive gifts, but with his time, his patience, his love. She saw him reading to Noah at bedtime. She saw him defend her when the media painted her as the gold digger who had trapped a billionaire. She saw him walk away from his old life, business deals that required ruthlessness, social circles that frowned upon his love for a black woman, expectations that no longer mattered to him. And little by little, her walls started to crack. Her heart started to remember. And one night, as Damian held Noah close, singing softly to him, she saw what she had been too afraid to believe. Maybe, just maybe, Damian Knight was worth the second chance he was fighting for. Selena had spent 5 months shielding her heart. 5 months convincing herself that Damian Knight, the man who once shattered her world, could never change. But now, as she watched him with Noah, heard his soft laughter, felt the warmth in his gaze, she wasn't so sure anymore. Was this the same ruthless billionaire who once cast her aside like a disposable affair? Or was this someone new? Someone who had learned what love truly meant? A late-night visit that changes events. That evening, as Selena sat in her small apartment, rocking Noah to sleep, she heard a knock at the door. Her heart skipped. She knew who it was. Taking a slow breath, she opened it, and there he stood. Damian, dressed down in a simple sweater and jeans, a far cry from his usual tailored suits. His piercing blue eyes held none of the arrogance she once hated, only earnestness, only hope. "I know it's late," he murmured, his voice quieter than she'd ever heard it. "But I needed to see you." Selena's fingers tightened around the door handle. She should tell him to leave. She should protect herself. But then Noah stirred in her arms, blinking up at Damian with sleepy eyes, and smiled. And in that moment, Selena knew Noah loved his father. And despite everything, a part of her still loved him too. "Come in," she whispered. The conversation that needed to happen. They sat in the dimly lit living room, the weight of unspoken words between them. Noah had fallen asleep in his crib, leaving only them. For a while neither spoke. Then Damian sighed. "I was a coward," he admitted. "I let fear and my own selfishness destroy something beautiful." Selena looked away. "I was nothing to you," she murmured. "You threw me away the second it was convenient." Pain flickered in his gaze. "You were never nothing to me, Selena," he said, voice rough. "I loved you. I still love you. But I was too weak to fight for you back then." Her chest tightened. She wanted to believe him. But could she? "You hurt me," she whispered. "I know. You broke me. I know. And I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you." Selena swallowed hard. She wanted to trust him. But trust was a dangerous thing. A night of truths and healing. As the night stretched on, they talked about the past. The betrayal, the pain she endured alone while carrying his child. Damian listened. Really listened. And for the first time, Selena saw something she never thought she'd see in his eyes. Remorse. Not just guilt, not just an apology, but deep, aching regret. And before she could stop herself, tears spilled down her cheeks. Damian reached for her instinctively, but paused, as if terrified she would push him away. But she didn't, because at that moment she didn't want to. She wanted to feel his warmth, his touch. And so, slowly, she let him pull her into his arms. And for the first time in forever, she let herself fall. A love rekindled. That night, walls crumbled. That night, they were no longer the broken pieces of what they used to be. They were something new. Selena allowed herself to feel again, to remember the way he used to hold her, the way his lips once traced every inch of her skin, whispering promises that felt like forever. And when Damian pressed his forehead against hers, his breath shaky, his voice raw, "Tell me there's still a chance," she didn't say no. She couldn't, because deep down she knew she had already given him one. But love wasn't just about passion and longing. It was about trust. And trust was something Damian still had to earn. The morning after, a new beginning. As sunlight crept through the curtains, Selena woke to the feeling of strong arms wrapped around her. Damian was still there, still holding her, still breathing her in like she was the only thing keeping him alive. For the first time in months, she didn't wake up feeling alone. But as she watched him sleep, a question lingered in her mind. Was this real? Could she truly trust him again? Or would history repeat itself, breaking her all over again? Selena stood in front of the mirror, staring at her reflection. The woman looking back at her wasn't the same woman from a year ago. Back then, she had been naive, hopeful, blinded by love. Then she had been heartbroken, shattered, a mother fighting to survive. And now she was strong, a woman who had survived the worst pain love could bring, and still found the courage to open her heart again. Today, she wasn't just Selena, the woman who had once loved Damian Knight. She was Selena, the woman who had forgiven but never forgot, the woman who had finally allowed herself to embrace a future she never thought possible. Because today, she wasn't just any woman. Today, she was a bride, a proposal that came from the heart. It had taken Damian months to prove himself, months of showing up instead of just making promises, months of choosing her and Noah over his career, over his elite reputation, over everything else. And then, one evening, under a sky full of stars, he had finally asked the question. Selena had expected a grand gesture, a flashy ring, an extravagant display of wealth, but Damian had done something different. He had taken her to the small park where they had once shared their first real moment together. No bodyguards, no luxury, just them. And there, as Noah played in the grass beside them, Damian had dropped to one knee. "I know I don't deserve another chance," he had whispered, voice rough with emotion. "But I love you. I love our son, and I want to spend the rest of my life proving that to you. Not because I have to, but because I want to." Selena had frozen. Her heart had raced. She had spent so long preparing herself to say no, to protect herself from ever being hurt again. But then she had looked into his eyes, and for the first time in forever, she had seen nothing but truth. So she had done the one thing she never thought she would do. She had said yes, the wedding of love, not status. Now, standing in her wedding gown, Selena felt everything: happiness, fear, excitement, but most of all, hope. The past still lingered, scars still remained, but today she was choosing love, real love, love that had survived betrayal, love that had survived pain, love that had been tested and still stood strong, a groom who had finally changed. Damian had been known as ruthless, as a man who never lost, but today, as he stood at the altar, holding their son in his arms, he wasn't that man anymore. Today, he was a father, a partner, a man who had learned what truly mattered. And when he saw Selena walking down the aisle, radiant and breathtaking, he felt it, the ache of a love he had almost lost forever, the overwhelming gratitude that she had given him another chance. And as she reached him, as their fingers intertwined, he silently vowed to never let her down again. Vows that meant everything. "I once thought love was just an illusion," Damian began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I thought power, status and wealth were all that mattered. But then I met you, Selena, and you changed everything." Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "You showed me that love isn't about control, it's about choosing someone, every single day, no matter what. And I promise you, for the rest of my life, I will choose you. You and Noah." Selena took a shaky breath, her hands trembling as she spoke. "I loved you once, and it nearly broke me," she admitted. "But the man standing in front of me today is not the man who broke my heart. He is the man who fought to mend it. And today, I choose you, Damian, not because I have to, but because I want to." Tears slid down Damian's face. Noah, resting in his father's arms, let out a small giggle, as if he understood the moment. And then, with the whole world watching, Selena and Damian sealed their vows with a kiss that wasn't just about passion, a kiss that wasn't just about forgiveness, a kiss that was about forever, a love that was worth fighting for. The reception was filled with laughter, music and joy. No more scandals, no more betrayals, just family. Noah danced in Damian's arms, giggling as Selena joined them, her heart full. She had once thought love was a fairy tale, something too fragile to withstand reality. But now she knew the truth. Love wasn't about perfection. It was about fighting, fighting for the people who mattered, and Damian had fought, not just for her, but for them, for their future, for their family. And as the night came to an end, as Damian held her close, whispering soft promises against her skin, Selena knew some second chances were truly worth taking. And this was the beginning of their forever.